Hello, and welcome to this presentation titled Freedom's Cause. My name is Stephen Smith, and within this presentation, this is part 1 of Vignette number 7, titled Acceptable to Unacceptable. As previously noted, while truths rendered undeniable and truths rendered self-evident are the means by which the American people have been able to see and overcome the harsh issues of the day, the means by which they have properly sustained these achievements is through relinquishing a comfortable cultural mindset by developing a more mature national mindset. Doing so by adhering under the dictates of their conscience. As void of this growth in maturity, none of the solutions to these harsh issues could have been properly sustained from generation to generation. Today, the doctrine of total inclusion is presenting Americans with a false teaching in regards to what constitutes a more mature national mindset, as said teachings are based upon the lie of how, as citizens, Americans need to effectively see and judiciously sustain the sexual and addiction cultures. However, the truth of the matter is altogether something else. For what actually constitutes a more mature national mindset is based upon a growth in the manner by which wholesome traditional marriages function. Presently, there remain strong cultural beliefs that dominate the mindset of virtually every couple within a traditional marriage across the United States, including marriages within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is also the paramount reason for the vast majority of divorces amongst both members and non-members. They are called acceptable weaknesses, and they abide within your marriage. You know the form they take: impatience, being self-centered, a temper, etc. And you know the negative behavior you have taken on, so thereby you can endure said weaknesses within your spouse. The development of skill sets via which you can emotionally tiptoe around these weaknesses, thereby prevent an unwarranted display of rude behavior from your spouse. For it seems the only choice open to you is either learn how not to trigger this rude behavior or condemn your spouse for having said weaknesses. But to learn how to live with them means you must first develop the rationality by which you can justify their existence within your marriage, then the stoic capacity to quietly endure your spouse's rude behavior. In so doing, have your marriage take on the appearance of being far more morally healthy than is actually the case. For if you cannot do this, if instead you condemn your spouse, this oft leads to a divorce. Yet it is to be noted, even if you as a couple develop the stoic capacity to endure one another's acceptable weaknesses, the degree of happiness you can obtain within your marriage must hit a glass ceiling. This being a fixed and absolute rule that applies unto all, including the most devout members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You may obtain and even look to obtain greater happiness via your church callings, work, a new home, in having joy within your children, etc. Use your growth and happiness in these diverse areas to cover up the truth that your marriage is not growing in happiness. For until these weaknesses are accepted as the unjustifiable behavior they are and properly resolved, the happiness had between you as husband and wife cannot increase to any meaningful degree. Thus, the only means by which your marriage can grow in happiness is via you adhering unto this golden rule. In your marriage, there is no such thing as a husband's or a wife's weakness. There are only those that abide within the marriage, which stipulates, while husbands are responsible to put the resolution of said weaknesses as their marital priority, you are equally responsible to help one another see and resolve them, to do so in a timely manner, via an appropriate effort, and that you seek out and adhere unto the tutelage of the truth, so thereby you may, as a couple, overcome said weaknesses. Doing so by extending the hand of friendship one unto another, in that you serve one another via persuasion, long-suffering, gentleness, and meekness, by love unfeigned, by kindness and pure knowledge. Fulfill these principles via adhering unto the dictates of your conscience, in that you know it is the right thing to do, and you will do it for no other reason than it is the right thing to do. In this, it is requisite you recognize, I am not advocating a specific doctrine of happiness, for as noted, based upon the principle of separation of church and state, I have no authority to do so. What I am advocating are principles that have to do with how you can advance your inalienable right as a couple to pursue after happiness. Thus, I am speaking to you in regards to your responsibilities as a citizen and not as a member. For the duty to recognize and overcome said weaknesses is one each and every couple within a traditional marriage throughout America must achieve. For this, and only this, is the more mature national mindset by which the malignant powers associated with the doctrine of total inclusion can be overcome. For the belief that to uphold yourself in having the inalienable right to pursue after happiness means you must develop skills and talents, so thereby you as a couple can stoically endure one another's acceptable weaknesses, while you look to find joy in other areas of life, is ludicrous, as it is a principle at odds with itself. As the only means by which you can sanction your spouse's ongoing misconduct towards you is via hardening your heart towards said conduct, as by said means you insulate yourself from feeling the hurts associated with their ongoing misconduct, thereby stipulating the only means by which you can sanction their ongoing misconduct towards others is via hardening your heart to an even greater degree, further stipulating, to the degree you harden your heart is the degree to which you limit your capacity to obtain happiness via your marriage. For the automatic byproduct of hardening one's heart so you will not feel said hurts is it limits the degree to which you, as a couple, can feel of and be guided by the Spirit. Limitations that this day cut you as citizens off from being able to receive of those truths which pertain unto how the sexual and addiction cultures oppose your Declaration of Independence. All of which means one simple thing. Until you, as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, let go of this comfortable cultural mindset, replace it with the appropriate, morally mature national mindset, you lack the maturity to properly resolve the problems associated with the breakup of so many church marriages, the walking away of so many from the gospel, and the growing number of members who are becoming addicts. Stipulating you lack the maturity required in order to have your marriage blossom as a rose, the maturity requisite to guide others in blossoming. For though you have received the fullness of the gospel, until you overcome said weaknesses, you lack the intellectual and moral maturity to live the fullness of the gospel within your marriage, to obtain the joys acquired via your so doing. As for the joy you are presently capable of, it has mostly come as an endowment by means of the labors of your progenitors, the efforts they put in to effectively see and judiciously resolve the harsh issues of their day. Thus, your progenitors are not the authors of your acceptable weaknesses. Rather, they have instilled within you a softness of heart towards sustaining the truth that is the product of generations of labor. But it is also a softness of heart that can cause you to feel more poignantly the hurts caused by your spouse's rude behavior, thereby resulting in the growing number of divorces. Some may feel what I am stating renders your progenitors as being overly callous of nature. Such is not the case. What I am saying is, they did not love merely according to the capacity they were born into. Instead, via facing and overcoming the harsh issues of their day, they learned to love beyond the capacity into which they had been born. A responsibility they have passed on to you. For save you live up to said responsibility, then all they have achieved must fall into ruin. For it is requisite you realize you cannot sustain only that portion of America's Declaration of Independence that has to do with your inalienable right to life and liberty. You must develop the capacity to sustain all the truths had therein. For the whole point of this presentation is to endow you with the capacity to do just that, based upon the pledge I made to you at the start of vignette number 1. Quote, you will be shown in an explicitly detailed manner the means by which the growing number of church marriages ending in divorce can be resolved, shown the means by which the growing number of members, especially young members, simply walking away from the gospel, can be resolved, shown the means by which the growing number of members who are becoming addicted can be resolved. End quote. For within that opening vignette, I also stated the parameters you must adhere unto in order to properly resolve these harsh issues. Quote, For like the harsh issues associated with slavery and segregation, the answers you are seeking are based upon a broad national, not a unique church solution, stipulating you can only resolve these harsh issues by means of sustaining those truths had within the Declaration of Independence. End quote. I remind you of the previous for one paramount reason. In like manner as your progenitors, when they faced the beguiling power of the lie, you now face the same dilemma they did, of either or. Either you as a couple mature in your capacity to sustain the truth by effectively seeing and judiciously overcoming specific acceptable weaknesses within your marriage. For you, this means the proper and timely resolution of the displays of temper, impatience, etc., that exist within your marriage, or you leave it to the servants of the lie to finish maturing in their capacity to effectively see and judiciously exploit said weaknesses. Your progenitors fulfilled this challenge when it was placed before them by overcoming that acceptable weakness, whereby they deemed the proper workplace environment was Caucasian, not multicultural. The proper neighborhood was Caucasian, not multicultural. The proper means for society to function is via male dominance, not through gender equality. Did all of this by repeatedly accepting this basic truth. The attitude they held, by which they had viewed the previous as being acceptable, by the tutelage of the truth, the dictates of their conscience bore witness to them of it being unacceptable. Thus, in regards to the acceptable weaknesses you have within your marriage, either you act in like manner as your progenitors, take what you have viewed as acceptable behavior and recognize it as unacceptable, or you allow the servants of the lie to move forward in their capacity to beguile thousands upon tens of thousands into believing. Today's requisite growth in national maturity can only transpire by learning how to sustain the sexual and addiction cultures. To via their efforts, see them advance the doctrine of total inclusion until it brings about the fall of the Declaration of Independence and thereby the subversion of America's Constitution. This brings us to a close of part 1 of this vignette number 7. I thank you for your time and hope to see you at the start of part 2 of this vignette. It is also my sincere hope that during the course of this presentation you have felt of the Spirit. For I bear witness, the principles that have been unfolded to you within this vignette are true, and do so in the sacred name of Jesus Christ. Amen.